If you're new to the channel, and a couple of you are, thanks for being here. And you have jumped into the deep end of the pool, um, as you will see. And so, if you like the kind of thing that is going on here, feel free to look around at my other episodes. As I've repeatedly said, nothing's really time sensitive. And most of my videos seem to be getting 40 or 50 views, some a lot less, 10 or 12, out of 135 subscribers. So that means not everybody's looking at everything, for sure. I do want to mention, for those really brave souls, that this guy, Dr. Stephen Greer, put this up here, is you can find him on YouTube. And in a YouTube interview, he's talking about disclosure, and that depending upon how this catastrophic disclosure goes down, it may lead to a level 1 civilization, either in a good way or a bad way. We are currently on Earth a level 0 civilization, whereas we're not at peace with ourselves. Certain parts of the human race hate other parts of the human race. Men and women don't get along very well. We divide ourselves arbitrarily a lot of different ways, and we still have war. So the reason that we have that, according to Dr. Greer, is that we've been taken down the wrong road by some very powerful interests who don't want us to catch up with the rest of the universe. But what he's describing in the way of a unification of the world, either to embrace what's beyond Earth or to defend against everything beyond Earth, is, again, a unification of mankind, either in a good way or a bad way. In my research, he's describing something that in my research is referred to as the lesser peace, which is the unification of humanity, but not really in a full sense, sort of a body without a really good animating spirit. And so if you listen to Dr. Greer, especially this latest interview, or even the catastrophic disclosure episode on his channel, and he has one, and you go to this site, baha'i.org/library, and research on your own the lesser peace, and then apply it to what this guy is saying, you might find some very interesting things for yourself. I haven't vetted this. I haven't done it yet, but I probably will, and there may be an episode on this channel about it if I find a good way to present it, and a very even-handed way to present all of this to you. So what we're going to talk about today, we're getting to the part of my story from early 2021 where I became aware that the Sabe People phenomenon was real. And if you want to see how that happens to somebody who is a normal, functioning professional in society, here's how it went. This was chapter 17 in the manuscript. It's entitled Realization 2021. It's fairly long. I don't know how long it will take. I may not go through the whole thing at once. But to begin, in March of 2021, while coming home from a walk on the trail, I saw a series of silver metallic flashes moving from north to south just below the tree line in front of me. I was walking east coming down the first rise, let's call it the Remover of Difficulties Hill, and the flashing object was moving south-southeast at about 30 miles an hour in a straight line. The flashes disappeared into heavier foliage, which was the tops of some 150-year-old hedge trees, Osage orange trees that made a hedgerow. They were off to my right, very near the tower of an old tile silo. The sighting lasted about 3 seconds. 1001, 1002, 1003. Imagine an aluminum cube throwing off somewhat random flashes as it reflected sunlight in different shapes, as if tumbling along at a constant speed in a straight line. I have tried to tell myself it was a bird's wings, but it was not. The county road runs north and south along a ridge a quarter of a mile behind the hedge trees. Sunlight could flash off a windshield through the treetops, I suppose. And that would make a straight line. But when the flashes first caught my attention, they were too far to the north and too low for that to be the case. When I first saw whatever it was between me and the middle house. It flashed 6 or 7 times. It was not a car up on the county road. You couldn't see a car from the point where this started. Now, my habit is to stargaze, usually but not always, from the deck off the west side of what we call the lodge, this building I'm in at the middle house. Whenever I see something noteworthy, I write it down because, well, MUFON and MADAR. On March 12, 2021, in the same part of the sky as the numerous 2020 sightings, which I've talked about in the last episode, I saw what looked like a very slow meteor falling towards the horizon, straight down, very low in the sky. It was a steady yellow light that dimmed, got much brighter, then dimmed again and went out before it reached the horizon. This took about 3 seconds. Who knows what it was? Unit number 97 at my house did not alert. On the other hand, I sometimes have alerts when we are outside looking at the sky and I don't see anything. So go figure. It was also about this time, late winter 2021, that my older son Henry recommended I watch the factsbyhowtohunt.com, a YouTube channel, for its unfiltered Sasquatch information. I began watching and found it fascinating. I tried not to miss a post. The channel is just Steve Istall, a hunting guide in British Columbia, reading unvetted emails from all over the world, word for word. Simple as that. He doesn't know what the emails will say until he reads them out loud. A very few are obviously fabricated stories by attention seekers. Now that was at the beginning. I've been watching this since 2021, and those have gotten very few and far between now. Occasionally they showed up early on. But the rest have that ring of truth. Then as the numbers mount up, they begin to reveal patterns of behavior by both Sasquatch and by humans. These are equally interesting. Too many people, too many emails, too much similarity to my own experiences to ignore. And I learned a new name for these people. Sabe, a First Nations name that does not carry all the pop culture misinformation baggage of the name Bigfoot. Also, on May 5, 2021, about 10 p.m. from the deck on the lodge, again, right here, I saw what appeared to be a satellite low in the western sky going south. It seemed to be over northeast Missouri, and as it passed below the brightest star low in the northwestern sky, the satellite gleamed brightly for a moment as it moved, and then it completely faded away. The sighting lasted for about 5 seconds, pardon me. I call it a sighting because Madar unit number 97 had an alert which it recorded on May 16th, 2021 at 4:56 GMT, which according to the World Time Saver is 6 hours ahead of Central Standard Time. I may have my date wrong here in this text. Thus, the alert was occurring at the time of the event. I think it's supposed to be at May 15th, 10 p.m., not May 5. That would be right, because we started out March 12th. Yeah. We're going chronologically. So that's an error on my part there. May 15th and May 16th. 2021 at about 4:56 GMT, which according to World Time Saver is 6 hours ahead of Central Time. Thus, the alert was occurring at the time of the event. Then, in late May 2021, while mowing my hiking trail down near the spring, I came upon, i.e., was presented with, the hind quarter of a fawn deer. I was on my commercial model Toro zero-turn radius riding mower. They are noisy. I wear ear protection. The hind quarter was in the center of the trail, 100 yards north of the overflow pipe for the irrigation pond at the spring. This was extremely unusual. My first thought was that a poacher must have dropped this, because there is no season on spotted fawns in May or at any other time. There was nothing else around it. No blood on the ground. It had all the spotted hide and hoof attached, and other than that, it could have fallen off a grocery store shelf. There were no bite marks, claw marks. The fur was pristine. I didn't see any cut marks or slices. It had not been chewed, mauled, or dragged. I was not yet thinking Sasquatch, though I looked around and saw nothing out of the ordinary. The leg had not been there long. There were no flies on it. There was no sign of a predator meal anywhere nearby. I figured a coyote could possibly have dropped it, but it showed no sign of a struggle or even the force it would take to pull it off the carcass with coyote teeth. After a few minutes, I tossed the leg into the brush towards the creek on the west side of the trail because I didn't want family or friends to come upon it while taking a walk. But as it turned out, this would prove to be the turning point in my understanding of the topic. Also in late May, the 29th to be more exact, at about 10 p.m., from the deck of the lodge, I saw a single bright strobe light flash at 30 degrees above the horizon to the northwest. A few moments later, there was a second flash at the same altitude but due north. So, and you have probably done this yourself, I asked it to flash twice again. Immediately, there was a bright flash in the same vicinity. About 5 seconds later, there was a second flash. This could be a coincidence, because a few more single strobes continued to flash in that vicinity. Next, they appeared just south of 90 degrees overhead until I went inside at 10:30 p.m. For me, the strobe lights are a thing from this location. Similar events occurred on July 13th and again on July 16th, 2021. On the 13th, just after sunset, I thought I saw Venus appear. But then it just faded to nothing. I was on a phone call and I pointed to get Barbara to look. A moment later it reappeared and shone very brightly, then it faded out and did not reappear. On the 16th, it appeared, got brighter, and faded away only once. From this location, the middle house, a lot of orbs have been seen moving about and changing magnitude low in the western sky. We don't have a good view to the east, as I have said, so somebody else will have to report on that. In the meantime, I felt compelled to share some information with Steve's All the People, of which I am one. Be advised, Steve can rant or ramble in addition to reading, and when he does, he generally poses some recurring questions to his subscribers. He also goes on political rants occasionally, which you and I may or may not agree with. So if you watch his channel, just fast forward over that stuff if you don't like it. You have to take the good with the bad. At this point in time, at this time, since he didn't seem to have found or read or responded to any emails I had sent so far, I continued to email from time to time whenever I felt I had something to add to the Sabe conversation. For instance, on July 2021 of 2021, I sent an email to share my story at howtohunt.com. And this is it. Dear Steve, you can use my name. I was once a realtor, so I know no one will remember it. I am a new subscriber living in Western Illinois and have a family member who saw one cross the gravel road in front of their Jeep near Louisiana, Missouri in 1972. I always wanted to see one, but after listening to you share stories over several dozen episodes, I don't want that anymore. I do want answers. Lots of answers. Understanding of the topic unfolds with each story gradually and doesn't always sink in all at once. I have been a Baha'i for over 50 years, still trying to get it right. Coincidentally, some principles of the faith may sound familiar. Quote, the independent investigation of truth, because, quote, truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. That is what you do. Your description that we each have our own puzzle pieces to find is spot on. Likewise, quote, mankind is one family, unquote, and the earth is our common home. All the people are like leaves of one tree and flowers of one very diverse garden. You have said as much. I mention the faith only because the result of contact with these things often leads one to despair for the future. And the Baha'i writings say the future of our race, the human race, is both long and glorious. It is our common passage through the metaphorical birth canal that is going to get bumpy. So buckle up. Those needing hope and reassurance might poke around Baha'i.org/library. It is free, searchable, and anonymous. Exactly as you say, keep only what you like and ignore what you don't, because Baha'i laws only apply to Baha'is, not you. Everybody else just gets unconditional love. Think new perspective and free spiritual supplies only if you need them. Anybody facing undeserved ridicule may need spiritual supplies. The writings are from about 1870 also say, know thou that every fixed star hath its own planets, and every planet its own creatures, whose number no man can compute. Unquote. That covers ET disclosure and leaves room for any number of light-bending interdimensional dudes with their own lack of social graces. I have researched the Baha'i writings for MUFON as a pro bono consultant and written 3 white paper essays for them. And though Sabe wasn't on my radar for those projects, the subject shares common aspects. The topic, the story, and its ramifications are epic. The bigger picture includes all the people ultimately recognizing that we are all and have always been one people. Not everyone wants this, as you have noted. Locally, I have noticed tree breaks, suspicious odors, and heard a big maple fall 200 feet up the bluff while mushroom hunting alone a mile from my house a couple years ago. My only non-chainsaw tree fall in 70 years. Much of that spent in bad weather in wooded Midwestern marshes. Probably all these are from natural causes, I hope. This has gotten long enough. The link is really for you. I can empathize with ridicule on several fronts. Feel free to share this as you will, or even not at all. Keep on keeping the faith. Quote, as you have faith, so shall your powers and blessings be. This is the balance, this is the balance, this is the balance, unquote. If it says it 3 times, it must be important, so I left it in. And if you are passing through, feel Feel free to look me up, truly, Grant House. P.S. If they are watching your emails and keeping a list, I am already on it. So that was my email to Steve, and I include them in this manuscript when I email Steve and Dave Politis occasionally, because it gives a snapshot of what I was really thinking at that time and where I was in all of this process. And I share that with you because if you're here, you may be in a similar process. And so how it happened to me may help you figure out what's happening with you. Okay, going on. As you can see, at the time of the foregoing email, I did not yet know that the hindquarter of the fawn deer was a Sabe thing because I didn't mention the incident. I am including the various emails I have sent to Steve and Dave Politis because they had posed questions to their subscribers from time to time, and I am a subscriber. And because I am writing this book both for Baha'is and experiencers of high strangeness, many of whom are also their subscribers, and those are the very people with whom I wanted to share my information. I am an experiencer as well, and maybe you are too. By sharing my emails to them, you can look over my shoulder and see how I offer what I know from the writings without challenging or condemning anyone. So, I sent the above email to Steve, and it could still be in the stack with all the rest of his emails. Or it could be among some that got lost when he changed phones, as he has mentioned on his channel. Either way, it has not been read on his channel that I know of for whatever reason, and I don't presume that he has seen it. It merely reflects where my head was at on the date I sent it. Now, back to the fawn deer hindquarter. I didn't realize this had anything to do with Sasquatch for sure, let alone that it was a thing, a behavioral pattern, until Steve Istall read Chris's email on howtohunt.com a few days later in July of 2021. Chris was then a 19-year-old who went dove hunting in a little cornfield near Sunbright, Tennessee. He said he was carrying a 20-gauge shotgun. He hadn't fired a shot, so after a couple hours, he walked back out the way he had come in and was presented with the hind quarter of a fawn deer right in the middle of the trail. Say what? It was as if Sabe knew Chris was going home empty-handed and wanted to help. Of course they were watching, but when I heard that email read, it was like that scene in The Lord of the Rings when Frodo shouts, "Get off the road," that one. Had I auditioned for The Lord of the Rings at that moment, I might have gotten the part. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought, that is exactly what I experienced a few weeks ago. Oh my gosh, they are real and they are here. From that point on, I knew. My thinking changed from kind of believing they might be out there and they might be a remnant population of Gigantopithecus to knowing they are out there right here and they are not animals. If you want to watch it, this email from Chris was reposted on Steve's backup channel, The Round Table of Knowledge, on 12/18/2023 under the title, quote, "New, had a flashlight on it at 15 yards, close quotes." That's the title of his episode that has Chris's report in it. For purposes of synchronicity, the very next email Steve read on this repost was from me. In that email, I rant a little bit in proper 1960s hippie fashion about the man vis-a-vis modern agriculture. I did this because I thought Steve would be into it, and he was. I'm not going to read that email here. I might read it next time. But I think this has gotten long enough, so I'll leave it here. So those are the events leading up to me figuring out that this phenomena is real for me, and it's here. And that's what I find the most exciting part of this whole thing, is to interact with a non-human intelligence that can reason in the abstract, another species of intelligent being, you don't have to become an astronaut. You just have to become aware. So, thanks for being here. I'll see you next time. Bye.
It is. Yay!